Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. This is an important video, guys. This is not only a bit of a pep talk, but we're going to be discussing exactly what is going on in the crypto space right now, and more importantly, what's going on with Bitcoin. And I'm going to be discussing with you guys what I believe the biggest threat to Bitcoin is right now. I'm not on about quantum computing. I am not on about a 51% attack or any kind of malicious actors. What I am indeed on about is the US government. We're going to cover why this is acting as such a prominent threat. An onslaught of bad news has essentially arrived. There is a narrative being built up as we speak, and it's a narrative that we've seen time and time again, that Bitcoin is bad and used for illegal things, illicit activity. This we know is false. There is no other more widely used currency for illicit activity than the US dollar. So we're going to talk about why this is such a threat. Could they even ban Bitcoin? And I believe if they really wanted to, technically they could. I would think what they're going to do is essentially hijack it and use it in their own. Understand this, ladies and gentlemen. The people that control the money supply really have the power. And that right now is the US government with the US dollar. Do you really think that the growth of Bitcoin and a rival such as Bitcoin wasn't going to bump into some kind of adversary? It absolutely was. We've got loads to cover in this video, guys, so let's get straight into it. Let's do, first of all, look at the chart, guys. This is a 4-hourly chart for Bitcoin. You can see you've sold out. In yesterday's video, we hadn't yet sold out of this symmetrical triangle. And what we were essentially saying was, look, we do believe we're always biased bullish in a bull market and biased bullish on blockchain, full stop. The reason being is because any dip to date, guys, that has happened in Bitcoin essentially has just been a fantastic buying opportunity. You can see that's really apparent. Any point in Bitcoin's history you could have bought, not even on a dip, and you'd have been in profits up until recently. So we are biased bullish, full stop, in regards to not only Bitcoin but the wider crypto space. We did think we had bottomed. The reason that we thought we had bottomed, guys, is because essentially we said after our Elliott wave, wave 3, we had made an ABC correction that we were essentially going to start recovering from. That has proven to not be the case, guys. We were wrong on the bottom call, certainly in regards to a candle body close. We could see a double bounce around about the 29,500 range, where we saw our previous kind of wick come down to before it ran into a lot of buying pressure. But ultimately, one thing that I didn't take into account, guys, within an ABC correction, you have 5 waves in a similar way to how you have them on the upside. So essentially what you've had here, guys, is a 1 wave, a 2 wave, a 3 wave, a 4 wave, and you are now making that 5th wave that is going to take you lower than the bottom of your 3 wave if it follows the Elliott wave structure. So do expect that, guys. Do anticipate, and I am certainly anticipating it right now, a sell-off lower than here. This coincidentally is also one of our last levels of support. We have smashed through support previously, and it could indeed continue. And then after that, guys, the kind of next level of support really is back at your prior all-time highs of 2017, and when we kind of were met with them back on the way up in this bull run. Let me point a number of things out to you before we get into the big threat, the big kind of dark cloud that is hovering over Bitcoin's head right now. I want to point something out, and we've made this very apparent on a number of occasions, guys, and that is when we look at our EMA, our 20 EMA on the weekly chart. We said way before we even started to sell off, you are heavily overextended and you are going to have an equilibrium moment with this EMA at some point. It's just how it goes. You adhere to it very well. You can see in the last bull market, we adhered to it pretty well. And every time we got too overextended, there was a kind of a realization and a kind of reconnecting with that EMA, and ultimately we did think this was going to happen. You can see, given how overextended you were, that theoretically, what comes up must come down, and a kind of smash below it before we then continue is absolutely possible. Not only possible, it's happened, and this could still be, I'm not 100% bearish yet. In fact, I'm significantly more still leaning towards the fact that we are in a bull market. I ultimately believe that blockchain is the future, or certainly is going to play a fundamental role in the future and is going to accrue value as a result of that. Now, what is this threat? And like I say, why is the US dollar posing as such a threat? Well, right now I'm not liking what I'm seeing in regards to them building up this kind of Bitcoin bad narrative. Biden administration to probe crypto use in a ransomware attack. You have here the FBI essentially came out and said, look, they mention Bitcoin and they link it to illicit activity. And there's been a narrative for a while now. It started off with Silk Road, where essentially The narrative essentially is that something like the US government are pushing, and other people that have vested interests in, keeping the legacy system that we've got and not moving in towards a new kind of monetary system, like something like Bitcoin or something like that, is that Bitcoin is bad and it's really a currency, like I say, that's used for bad things. So let's listen to this. We're also going to be hearing from Trumpy Pumpy. He had a few words on it. It's almost like they all came out at the same time, coordinatively, and launched an onslaught on Bitcoin. So let's listen to this first, and then let's kind of move on to some other clips, news feeds, and then we're going to relate it all back to Bitcoin and exactly how low we think this could go. So let's get straight into it, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, the FBI successfully seized criminal proceeds from a Bitcoin wallet that DarkSide ransomware actors used to collect a cyber ransom payment from a victim. Since last year, we've been pursuing an investigation into DarkSide, a Russia-based cybercrime group. The DarkSide ransomware variant is one of more than 100 ransomware variants that the FBI is currently investigating. DarkSide developers market their ransomware to criminal affiliates who then conduct attacks and share a percentage of the proceeds with the developers, a scheme known as ransomware as a service. In this case, the FBI has identified more than 90 victims across multiple U.S. critical infrastructure sectors. Those include manufacturing, legal, insurance, healthcare, and energy. Based on our investigation into DarkSide and incredible work with other U.S. government partners, we identified a virtual currency wallet that the DarkSide actors used to collect a payment from a victim. Using law enforcement authorities, victim funds were seized from that wallet, preventing DarkSide actors from using them. This is just the latest disruption that the FBI and DOJ have taken to impose risk and consequences on cyber adversaries.
So you can see there he's talking about the fact that Bitcoin was used by these hackers to essentially, as a way for them to get paid in an anonymous kind of way. This is the kind of strawman that is now being built up. Let's listen to Trump say a few words on it. Came out very coincidentally at a similar time. And what he says here towards the end is essentially a telling of why they are kind of propagating this narrative that, Bitcoin's bad and only drug dealers and people like that use it. A wise man once said that, when he was saying certain stuff when he was in office, he nobody agreed with him. Now he comes out and says something like this and everybody loves him. It is what it is, guys. Let's play the clip and then let's continue with this video and go into some more information in regards to this recent Bitcoin sell-off, what's really caused it, and where we're likely to head from here. So let's get this played.
You don't like Bitcoin? You wouldn't invest in Bitcoin? Do you invest in the stock market at this moment?
So not at this moment. I think it's high. So I have not invested in the stock market at this moment. I have in the past, but I have not at this moment. I think it's high. Okay. Bitcoin, it just seems like a scam. I was surprised. With us, it was at 6,000 and much lower. I don't like it because it's another currency competing against the dollar. Essentially, it's a currency.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
I want the dollar to be the currency of the world. That's what I've always said.
And that, guys, is exactly what this is all about. Bitcoin poses an opposition to the US dollar in terms of a store of value. Do you really think the people that control money and it's, get to manipulate it, get to control monetary policies, etc., not only do they control their own country, like the US, they control pretty much every country that is indebted to the US. Understand... I know there's a lot of people in this space that are only here essentially because they want to make money. But there is a philosophy behind Bitcoin. There is an aspect of... there's something bigger going on than just the prospect to make money here with Bitcoin. What there essentially is they're a fight for your very freedom. Now, I don't want this video to be 3 or 4 hours long where I talk to you about the reasons that I'm involved in Bitcoin. I got into the Bitcoin space back in 2017. That's why I can sit here largely comfortable despite a sell-off of this magnitude. When my portfolio essentially has gone down by 50%, I'm still largely in the profits. I'm not saying that to gloat. I'm just saying I've been here long enough to understand how this cycle works. It's a volatile asset class, guys. Welcome to the crypto space if this is your first interaction with the kind of volatility associated to it. You know, like I said, we had essentially nearly a year of just a complete run up. So an equilibrium was going to get met and you were going to have a sell-off period. A healthy correction is what I'm calling this. Some people call me mad for saying that I'm still bullish, but ultimately I know where this is going, guys. I'm confident of that. So what you have going on, and I got sidetracked there, is you have a real fight for freedom in regards to you being in control and having a fair value system to weigh things up by. The US dollar is not a fair value system. It's in fact the direct reason in a lot of cases why there is so much inequality in the world. Because the people at the top get to essentially choose what monetary policies they want out, you know, whether they want to inflate the dollar, whether they want to deflate it, and essentially they'll hedge themselves against that before it even happens. Whereas your average working day person who's only really interested in, you know, working and you know, can't wait for Friday to come around so we can go and hit the pub for 2 days and then spend Sunday in bed all day ill and then go back to work and rinse and repeat. He isn't looking and looking into the kind of finances and stuff like that. He's essentially just living his life, restricted, monetary. There's a saying, and it was said by Margaret Thatcher, and take with it what you will, whether you like Margaret Thatcher or not. I'm neither here nor there on that. But the saying's true. How can you be free if you're not truly financially free? Do you really think the US dollar and the US government and the powers that be are going to just hand over rulership to you and make everything fair? Absolutely not. There's going to be a pushback. There's going to be adversaries pop up in the kind of adoption curve of Bitcoin, and that's what you're seeing right now, guys. That is a very telling sign to me that this is actually a real challenger to the establishment that is. And ultimately, guys, you know, I'm still in this. Bitcoin could go down to 10k, which I don't think it is going to do, and I'd just be looking at that as a real buying opportunity. I'm loading up on altcoins right now, and I'm going to continue to do so. If you look at Bitcoin's history, every dip that has ever taken place essentially was just a buying opportunity. And I do believe this one, in hindsight, is going to be the same. And I ultimately think you're going to have a similar recovery to what we saw back in March 2020. And this bull run is going to get underway. So do not fear, ladies and gentlemen. You know, this is just part of anything. You know, when the internet came out, there was a lot of pushback. There was a lot of kind of negativity attached to it. You are going to bottom out at some point for Bitcoin. You are going to hit that floor of money. Remember, the majority of Bitcoin out there is illiquid. So it's not being traded. It's not being used to pump up and pump down prices. It's actually really, in retrospect, a very small percentage of Bitcoin that is actually being traded and used to kind of manipulate the market. So essentially, guys, where are you going to? Well, you've got this last level of sort of support around about your 29k range, and then if it fails that, lots of calls for 24k, lots of calls for, you know, 23k. I don't think you're going to go back below your 2017 all-time highs. Absolutely not. If you did, we'd have to make a video re-looking at things, because then the trend would have really changed. Right now, I think 29k, 28k. We need to see a bounce somewhere. We need to see areas of support. And then essentially what you're doing right now, guys, is you're watching and waiting. You know, we will know in the next couple of weeks exactly what this is going to do. In the next week or so, in fact, we'll know what this is going to do. Right now, it's still fresh. It's not a good time to go running into anything right now, because there is definitely the possibility, like we said in yesterday's video, of a sell-off to the downside. That's what you kind of get confirmed to you in a symmetrical triangle, because you're not really making your mind up, and ultimately you're just going to go. You know, an indecisive individual is probably just going to go with the flow of things more times than not. So that's all I have for you in this video, ladies and gentlemen. I just thought we'd address that threat, and it is a real threat. Remember, they did ban gold back in 1971. So the possibility of them banning Bitcoin could absolutely be a possibility. Something we're watching very closely. Ultimately, I don't think they're going to do that, because there's too many people involved now. You know, big companies, they'd be really hurting the kind of a lot of people out there, and it would really just highlight how corrupt they are. What I do think is going to come from this is regulations, which could give us the very momentum that we need to continue back on in this bull run, because that would give institutions, hedge funds, and such as the real confidence to actually get involved in this space. Ultimately, guys, I'm still bullish on crypto, regardless of this. Hodl those coins, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you all in the next YouTube video. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.